Hi, my name is Tiffany Newton. I'm going to be talking about homeschool connections for our ELL students, the impact of culture for our families, the importance of connecting with our families, and how to incorporate diversity into the classroom. So it's important to look at the influences that culture has on teaching and our students. So culture is a framework that our students come in with. Culture influences how students communicate, how they perceive education, how they perceive authority, their nonverbal communication, and their body language. For example, in some cultures, it might be common to avoid eye contact with an adult and that's seen as respectful, versus in American culture, we might perceive that as like, oh, they're inattentive or they're not paying attention. Cultural competence is key in these situations. Cultural competency allows teachers to be aware of other cultures, to dive deeper into understanding other cultures, and to hold space for other cultures. So cultural competency allows teachers to create inclusive environments for their EL students and help affirm their EL students' identities in the classroom. Culturally competent teachers, they acknowledge, they affirm, and they discuss students' cultures throughout the school year, not just for a specific holiday. Students' culture can be integrated in different ways, like through literature, through classroom discussions, through like connections that are made throughout the day, and they can help students gain more interest and engagement in their learning. It's also important to think about how culture impacts learning. Culture is directly linked to students' and families' beliefs surrounding education and its importance, and how the expectations should be in the classroom and how the expectations are for parent communication and teacher communication. Classrooms influence language acquisition by promoting meaningful engagement. It's important to have meaningful engagement in the classroom with the English language. So meaningful conversations, meaningful texts that relate to their home lives and their cultures. It's important to apply what they know and bring it into the classroom. It's important to embrace students' culture and promote their language acquisition through an inclusive space. Teachers should be culturally competent. They should employ culturally responsive teaching strategies, and they should use an assets-based approach. Inclusivity begins with the teacher, and it's about the teacher's mindset and extends to the classroom and creating a safe space. It's also important to look at the strategies to use that support and affirm our EL students in our culturally diverse classrooms. Some strategies for supporting and celebrating diversity are embracing students' culture and having open, honest conversations. Teachers can set a time in the morning, maybe like for housekeeping. So for example, I have morning slides. That's a space where I share all the information of what's happening for the day, what's happening for the week, and it's a space for questions. So it's a space for students to ask any questions they have about the day or what's coming up. That way they can feel comfortable, they can feel safe in the classroom, and they can feel regulated because they know what's happening next. Connecting with students one-on-one is also really important for supporting and celebrating diversity. Having one-on-one conversations, getting to know students' families, their siblings, their upbringing, cultural past, maybe what country they came from. For example, I know one of my students came from Afghanistan and has lived in 5 countries before coming here, things like that. Teachers should have cultural competency, and they should also have literature that reflects their students' culture and diversity. And they should also embrace students' individual agency. So allowing students to use their voice, to voice concerns, allowing students to have questions, to dive deeper into topics, even if they're tough conversations. Teachers can leverage pre-existing knowledge by using things like sentence stems, by using collaborative learning structures like Kagan strategies, and by incorporating cultural knowledge into lessons. So relating lessons like social studies and science back to their home life, back to their previous knowledge. It's also important to look at strategies for responsiveness to different strengths and needs in our EL students. Strategies to use for differing needs and strengths is thinking and viewing everything in an assets-based approach. It's important to look at their strengths and to look at what they're coming to school with and to celebrate the framework that they're coming to school with instead of viewing it as, oh, they're already behind or, oh, they're already low. It's also important to differentiate content and to differentiate and have multiple means of expression. Some of our students, writing is hard, but they can explain everything to you verbally, or writing is hard, but they can draw it for you. It's also important to have explicit targeted instruction, providing scaffolds, and using data to inform instruction and small groups. Now, when you're thinking about the importance of understanding social, emotional, and cultural needs of your students, it's important to focus on creating routines and procedures, creating as much normalcy as possible to lighten the cognitive load that our students experience of like what's happening next, what's going on. It's also important to ensure that they feel safe in the classroom environment, safe enough to take risks, safe enough to ask questions. It's also important to understand the needs of students by asking questions, having big conversations, having like a safe place in the classroom. That way it feels inclusive, it feels safe to have a broad range of feelings and questions and discovery. Now, when you're thinking about homeschool connections, you need to think about how you're going to connect to your family so that the safe environment is safe for the student in the classroom, but that their family also feels safe with you being their teacher. It's also important to look at funds of knowledge. So that's what the community and family practices might already be in existence and what those bring into the classroom. Funds of knowledge influence language learning, and they enhance the classroom experience, and they enrich content, and they make it easier to understand content. It's easier for students to learn and create connections to materials in a meaningful way when the funds of knowledge are embraced. It's also important to look at strategies that you can use to build and foster strong partnerships with the families, communities, and the school. Building a family, community, and school partnerships begins with creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. Providing outreach to families in their home language is really important. Sharing messages of support, removing barriers for families to get help is also really important. Connecting families to the school and community resources is key, and inviting families to participate in classroom activities, so maybe like learning opportunities or volunteer opportunities, letting them volunteer on campus or attend school trainings on campus, and then also district-wide events like things that might be with the city of Phoenix or other partnerships is really helpful for building partnerships that go throughout the school, throughout the families and the communities. It's also important to look at effective family engagement tools and how to highlight the assets that already exist at home and with home languages and communication. It's important to use online tools like translation hotlines. I personally use Class Dojo for a lot of my communication because it translates a majority of languages, and what it doesn't translate, I use Google Translate to translate languages like Dari for my families. It's also essential to keep families up to date on simple information like dress down days, but also up to date on big things like Azella testing is happening, and here's what to expect, or here's what we're looking for. It's also important that families have the opportunity to participate, like have the opportunity to come to events like Culture Night, or come to events like Opera Day, and to have opportunities to attend field trips, but also to have opportunities to just be in the classroom, like maybe to come celebrate a birthday or celebrate a holiday or just come and check in. So it's also important to look at inclusive community engagement practices. So it's important to look at empowering families to be active participants in their students' learning, but also in the community. It's important to have conversations that are empathic and authentic. It's important to empower families to be active participants in their students' learning and to view their culture and language as an asset. Inclusive engagement practices include building partnerships with the community like medical providers. So for example, we often work with like Phoenix Children's Hospital, and we work with like car seats and other tools that they might need. We also work with local police departments and fire departments, or we set up things like GED classes or Azella classes or English classes. When there's a level of trust and connection between the teachers, the school, and the community, it helps families engage and benefit from those opportunities. So it's important to look at the needs of our ELL students, to look at the homeschool connections we can create and how to create an inclusive environment for all. Thank you.